Hello, so today this is the second video for the website that I'm creating on penny stocks. So this video is going to focus on certain research methods that I outlined to conduct your due diligence for penny stocks in the websites that I'm creating. So this one's going to focus on a company called Inpixon, and using this company, I'm going to give you an example of how to use certain research methods and how to use certain pieces of information and where to find them exactly. So the pieces of information that I'm going to look at are charts, news, press releases, statistics, historical data, the profile, and the financials. And if you pay close attention, you will probably notice that these are all the tabs that we can see over here on this page. So currently I have navigated to Yahoo Finance, and on Yahoo Finance I have picked this one penny stock company, Inpixon, right? And now if you take a close look, you can see that Inpixon is trading on NASDAQ, which is one of the reputed stock exchanges that I also outlined and spoke more about it on the website. Now coming to this number over here, this is the price per share, and this is the percentage increase in the prices. Now let's start off with looking at the summary of the company Inpixon. So this is previous close shows you the closing data, the closing price per share value when the market last closed. This is the opening for today's market opening price, the bid price, ask price, volume for today, and average volume. So we can see that these are relatively high. I say relatively because we can only tell if a certain trading volume or a certain value is high while we compare it with other companies in the same industry or same sector, which is why I say relatively. Now coming to market capital, we can see that it is a micro capital company. We have other certain ratios here that I've described in the website, and if you need further detail on them, you can go to the website. The next thing that we're going to talk about is this chart that we see over here. So I'm going to get a better look of this, I'm going to navigate to the chart tab over here. And okay, so now we have navigated to the charts tab over here, and I'm going to start by describing a few things. On first glance, we can see that on the x-axis is the time period, on the y-axis is the price per share values. So over here that we see is where I can change the time period, as I mentioned even in the website, that you can change the time period at which you can see the financial data in the form of graphs, right? So here, this is one day. So if you choose one day, you get to see time periods such as 10 a.m., 10:30, 11 a.m. So basically, from the time the market opened to the end, to the market's close, all the time periods you can see the data, for the price per change fluctuations, right? Now you can also click 5 days, and you could check it over a period of 5 days, 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, so on and so forth, and you can grasp that. So that's the time period. You could also change the time interval to as frequent as 1 minute to as farther down as to 1 year. Right now I'm going to keep it at 5 minutes because it's a pretty good time interval. Now this part allows you to change the chart type. So each chart type gives you a different representation of the same data, but it is known that candle and hollow candle, candlestick basically gives you the most information for the price per share. So I'm just going to go ahead and click on candle. And you can see there's a draw option here as well. So on Yahoo Finance, what it does, it's kind of an interactive media where you can make notes. If you see any patterns, jot them down, draw lines, and so on and so forth. You can do that using this option. I just mentioned drawing patterns or finding patterns. So to find patterns, there's certain patterns that investors over the years have already found, and what they signify has already been discovered. So if you see any of those patterns, to identify them, it would be easier if you could draw them. And to see a few of the commonly found patterns in penny stocks and the technical analysis part of it is what I've explained further off in the website. So as you'll probably hear me say a lot of the times that in this video that a lot of the information is on the website, I say so because the purpose of this video is merely to show you how to find the information that you need to find. It's not really how to interpret the information that you find. It's mostly just telling you how to find, where to find the information that you need to finish your due diligence, or to start off, to kickstart your due diligence, not really do the whole procedure of carrying out your due diligence. Anyway, so now we can see here, and I'm going to go ahead and just hover over a candlestick. So we can see here that the green and red will obviously show you bullish, that's green, and bearish, that's red. So if you look at the bearish, you can tell that obviously the opening price was higher than the close price, so that's the opening price over there, that's the close price. And if usually this top number over here shows the highest value, and the bottom point over there will show you the lowest value for the day. You can do that by even just hovering over the candlestick. You can see that on the x-axis you see the time of the day and the day, and for the price per share, and on the y-axis you can see the actual price for the share. And then you can do that by just hovering over each of the candlesticks. And over here you can see this open price, high price, low price, close price, with exact values given over here in case interpreting the chart is a little harder. So that's about charts. As you can see, it's a really effective manner of visually seeing the historical data of be it over 5 years or over one day, and it really helps you gauge gauge the price per share and predict any trading windows, or see how investors react to certain activities, and so on and so forth. And it's a really effective tool. Also, if you find certain trading patterns, that could help you as well. Now what I'm going to do is move on to the statistics tab. So the statistics tab for the company of InPixin, it just shows you certain ratios that I outline again in much more detail in the website. And as I mentioned before, since this is not for me to explain each of this, it's just for me to tell you where to find it. That's all I'm going to do right now. So it gives you financial highlights, trading information, profitability, management effectiveness, income statement, and so on and so forth, which is extremely valuable fundamentals that you would need to gauge the financial strength and management strength of a company. So comparing these statistics to the competitors of InPixin, so as we know, InPixin is a more technological company because it's also trading on NASDAQ. It kind of hints to that as well. So trying to find information, the same information for InPixin's competitors might also help understand and make more informed decisions for trading any stocks on InPixin. Now moving to the historical data. So the historical data, as we can see over here, can be sorted and filtered using the time period and the frequency. And you could also, not just historical prices, for the historical data you could look at dividends, stock splits, and the prices. I'm just going to keep it at prices for now. For the time period, I'm going to keep it to 3 months right now, so it's a pretty good time. And you could change the frequency if you wanted. If you wanted a more, and you have to apply it, of course. And if you wanted to see over a different frequency, it could be weekly or monthly. Daily, of course, gives you a more detailed view. And you can see the opening price, the highest price, the lowest price, and the close price for that particular time period. So as we've chosen daily, so for that day you can see the time period. It also shows you the volume. Please give me a second. Okay. Okay, so we get the same information over here. Right, so this is the raw data. The Visual representation of this data can be seen using the candlestick charts as we saw previously. And this data really helps you compare the company's progress and like constant increases, that is the rise or fall in the share price of the company, and really helps you see if there's any trend, or also analyze how investors' sentiments have changed or how investors react to particular events, and correlating the events to the days at which they happened and the days the corresponding over here. You could the corresponding days over here, you could see any changes in the price per share relating to certain events if you wanted. So now I'm going to move on to the profile. So the profile tells me, of course, the name of the company, that's InPixin that we're looking at, the address, the contact number, the website, the sector that InPixin or the company is in, the industry, which is a little bit more detailed, and the full-time employees. So as I mentioned, that intellectual property is one of the biggest assets a company can have. So the biggest assets of a company walk in and out of their doors constantly, and that's their employees. So looking at the headcount of a company that we see over here, the full-time employees are 68, is really important to see if the company can grow. So for instance, if they have a really low amount of full-time employees, they might not be able to keep up with the growth if the management team lacks labor force or workforce. Now, telling how much small is, or how much a large number is, or how much a smaller number of employees is, can only come through comparing this particular company with its competitors in the particular field, and it allows you to find if it has a relatively high headcount or a relatively low headcount. Besides that, what is really helpful is that Yahoo Finance gives you the key executives, so the CEO, director, CFO, COO, CTO, and so on. CTO, of course, because InPixin is a technological company, CTO is a very important position to be noticed as well. So the best part about this is the fact that since I know that right now the CEO of InPixin is Mr. Nadir Ali, what I can do is look him up, find information of where he worked before, what his work experience is, and if this particular person was able to bring particular success in his previous company, he is likely to do the same as well to the sales for InPixin, which allows you to make more informed choices. Of course, any major success or let's say losses cannot be pinpointed on the head of one person, of course, but it does help you understand the direction in which the executive is leading a particular company, which allows you to make more informed decisions. So that's about the profile. But another really important part of looking at this is the website that you can see. So I'm going to go ahead and find the website. Okay, so when I'm going ahead to the website, immediately you can see that the products and solutions section. So as I mentioned, even in the website, looking at the product, assessing the product, and using the product of the company that you're looking to invest in is really helpful, as it helps you understand how good or bad the product is, how it is doing in comparison to its competitors, and it helps you find any strengths or limitations in the products. It also helps you understand if whether there's a high demand. So if you're not able to lay your hands on the product as soon as you want, then it might indicate that there's a high demand for the product, which is a good sign. Besides this, you can also understand if the management team is really driven, if they're willing to push for sales, and using all this information, it really helps you understand whether the product is bound for high revenue or probably not, right? So looking at their products, looking at their reviews, reviewing it for yourself is a really good way to understand whether you should invest or not in the company. So as we can see now, there's a lot of tabs that we opened up for in Pixin, but I'm going to navigate to the request for more information tab. Okay, so now coming to this section, we can see that there's a section where you can email the company directly and ask them any questions or message that you have. And this is an effective way of communicating with the company in case you have any questions on their recent events or any other questions in general that you want to clarify before trying to make a decision whether or not you're interested in investing in this company or no. So I'm just going to scroll down and look for investor relations. Okay, there we go. So, as I've mentioned even in the website, investor relations representatives are basically there to help prospective investors answer any questions that they have based on the company, the product, the management, business model, or anything as such. So they're there to answer all the questions we have. So as we can see that this site is particularly dedicated to the investor relations, gives you information about it if you have any questions based on any announcements the company has made, any presentations, any financial results that they've had, can all be asked through emails, or you could even call the investor relations representatives, and it's a really great way of gauging a lot of intangibles and tangibles for a particular company. Okay, that being said, we shall go back to Yahoo Finance. Okay, so that's talking about the profile. Now we're going to go into the financials. Okay. Just before I forget, as I've mentioned, that the IR representatives are a great way to contact and clarify any questions that you've had. I specified any questions that you might ask, or how to go about this in the website, and if you want to look at that, you could look at that as well. Anyway, now moving on. So this is the financial results that you get for the companies. So this is in Pixin's results. So I'm going to stress again that I'm not going to be analyzing or interpreting the data that's given here. I'm merely telling you how to find, where to find, and giving you a look of what I described on the website. So as I described on the website, the income statement is one of the 3 parts of the financial report that get released quarterly or annually. As you can see, I'm navigating on the annual right now, and I'm going to go and switch that to quarterly. Okay. So obviously quarterly financial reports come once in 3 months, and we can see that over here. You can see the division over here. So the income statement basically tells you how much revenue or how much profit or loss the company is making. So you can see the top line is total revenue, so that's total revenue made in sales. The cost of revenue is basically how much of a cost, or what cost the company is incurring in order to fulfill any of their product sales or services that they're offering. So if you subtract the cost of revenue from the total revenue, you get the gross profit, which is printed out over here for all the quarters. An interesting fact, not really a fact per se, but an interesting thing and a really helpful thing to do is to compare the information across the quarters to see any kind of improvement or decline in the performance of the company. Right? So now we have the operating expenses, which is the next section. Of course, as the name suggests, is any expenses that are incurred by the company for the operations that they have, and they've divided them into research, development, and selling and general administrative. So the sum of these two is printed as the total operating costs, and you can see that as well. So any operating income or loss, again, is mentioned over here. And you can see that the operating income or loss is basically the total operating expenses subtracted from the gross profit. Okay. Besides this, over here you have the net income, and they've also specified income before taxing, in tax expense, and so on and so forth. And finally, they give you the net income, which basically tells you if they're making a loss or they're making any profit. Now we're going to the balance sheet, which you can navigate over here. Now the balance sheet will tell you the assets and the liabilities of a company, and whether or not a company is able to cover up and pay off their liabilities using their assets, or if they're in a position to do so. If they are in a position, that means they're in a pretty good position and they might be able to survive. But if they're not, it is a reason for you to look at why they're making losses and trying to understand how their liabilities are overbearing their assets. So the assets are divided into current assets and non-current assets, which are basically current assets would be the immediate cash or cash equivalents or short-term investments that we can see are listed out over here. So non-current assets could be property, equipment, and so on and so forth, which we can see over here as well. So we have the total current assets, which is basically all the current assets sum, and we have total non-current assets. So the non-current assets will include other investments, goodwill, intangible assets, other long-term assets, and all put together you have the total assets, which is the sum of non-current and current assets. Now the second part of the balance sheet shows you the liabilities. So again, liabilities are divided into current liabilities, that is short-term liabilities, and non-current liabilities, which is long-term liabilities. So the liabilities can be any accounts that are payable or any other deferred revenues or so on and so forth. And we can see here that the company has clearly divided them, and you can see where the money is going and where the liabilities arise. So the total non-current liabilities have also been listed out, and finally the total liabilities would be the sum of the total current and non-current liabilities that we can see is printed out over here. So this will give you good information to gauge if the company has the capability of paying off its liabilities using their assets. Now finally, going to the cash flow. So the cash flow gives you the net movement of cash, so basically showing you how much money is going out of the company and how much money is coming into the company. So we can break that down into operating action. One second, please. So we can break that down into operating action that we see over here, investing action, investing activities, and lower down you'll find financial activities. So all of these put together, these are further divided, and you can finally find the free cash flow. And of course, negative means they're operating a loss, and positive means they're operating profits. So overall, the financial reports allow you to gauge the financial strength of a company, which might influence your decision of whether or not you want to invest in this particular company. So before closing, what I want to lastly touch upon is the press releases and the news. That is really helpful to understand whether or not you want to invest in a particular company. So as I've mentioned, even in the website, a lot of the penny stocks are speculation and reactions to investors. So